Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to share this one with you. We're going to be diving into a deeply personal, honestly kind of profound spiritual origin story. And you know what I love most about the text we're looking at today? This story doesn't kick off in some ancient mist-covered temple. It doesn't start with a sacred book or a famous guru on a mountain. Nope. It starts with a grandmother named Josie. We're going to explore how the entire foundation of a person's spiritual awakening was built just by someone seeing the light inside them.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. The author hits us right out of the gate with this amazing opening line. My spiritual life did not begin in India. It began with Josie. I mean, wow, right? It immediately grabs you because it takes this massive, ethereal concept, spiritual awakening, and roots it right down into a human relationship. It really sets the stage for what I can only describe as a cosmic version of the hero's journey. Only here, the hero isn't grabbing a sword to go slay a dragon. They're answering a call from the universe itself. But hey, every hero needs a mentor when they start out, right? And in this story, that mentor is a grandmother who just looked at a kid's inner world and recognized it for what it truly was.
All right, moving right into section 1, the seed of longing, a childhood fascination.
So, to really wrap our heads around the story, we actually need to totally rethink the word longing. In the text, longing isn't framed as a weakness. It's not just a kid being confused or daydreaming. It's actually profound guidance. It's quite literally described as a memory of the cosmos. As a little kid, the author felt this huge, loving connection. They talk about looking up at the night sky, wearing these plastic big boy spaceman masks, and just laughing at what felt like a giant cosmic joke. They inherently knew they came from somewhere way out there, way beyond our universe, long before they had the vocabulary to actually explain what that meant. They didn't have a map or a specific rulebook yet. They just had this super intense, beautiful longing.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how Josie actually nurtured that longing. Her whole approach was incredibly powerful because it was defined by negation. Basically, it's about what she deliberately chose not to do. She didn't use big, flowery spiritual language. She wasn't sitting a toddler down to lecture them about meditation or the Tao. She absolutely didn't force any kind of rigid religion on them. And honestly, maybe the most crucial thing, when this kid was staring up at the stars or just getting lost in deep silence, she never once told them to be practical. She never hit them with that classic, oh, it's time to grow up and stop dreaming line. In a world that is constantly trying to yank kids back down to earth, Josie actively chose restraint. Instead of correcting or directing, she did exactly this. She simply held space. It sounds so incredibly simple, but man, it is profound. Josie offered this very quiet, very steady wisdom. She just had this softness and presence about her that made the invisible world feel totally safe and completely real for the author. She honored the kid's internal reality, and by doing that, she basically provided the rich soil where a massive lifelong spiritual journey could actually take root.
Which brings us to section 2, living two different lives, the outer and inner worlds.
This really perfectly captures the dynamic that was going on. So in their outer life, the author was just your totally normal kid. They played, they laughed, they explored, they genuinely loved the world around them. But at the exact same time, their inner life was just vast. It was cosmic. They were constantly yearning for the stars, sensing this divine presence and feeling like they were connected to friends on the other side. They just instinctively knew that the doors to the Creator weren't floating on some cloud in the sky. They were right inside themselves. And it's so cool to see this harmonious duality. You've got this normal kid playing in the yard who is secretly carrying the memories of the universe. And through all of that, Josie never once tried to normalize them or make them fit into some standard cookie-cutter mold. She just let both of those lives exist side by side.
Moving right along to section 3, a quiet religious rebellion, trusting the compass.
Let's break down how this actually evolved over time. Early on, in childhood, this spiritual connection was mostly sensory, right? Dreaming of the stars, feeling immense joy. But right around the age of 10, that abstract longing suddenly became super conscious. The author actually notes that whenever they heard certain specific words like India, meditation, yoga, they'd literally get a chill down their spine. And it wasn't fear, it was recognition. It was like this internal whisper saying, yep, this is the path. This is where the door opens. Naturally, as they grew into teenagers, they started exploring organized religion to try and figure this all out, which ultimately sparked a quiet, internal rebellion against transactional doctrines. To really get the why behind that rebellion, we just have to look at the author's own comparison of their direct, lived experience versus the traditional religious doctrines they were running into. Inside, the author's reality was built entirely on pure joy, connection, love, and a really direct personal relationship with the divine. So when they looked at organized doctrines on TV or in churches, it just felt like a massive mismatch. They saw systems that felt guilt-based, performative, highly transactional, hyper-focused on stuff that happened 2,000 years ago instead of the living, breathing joy they felt right then and there. For the author, it all just felt kind of hollow compared to the deep cosmic connection they were already experiencing firsthand.
So, the absolute key takeaway here is this: Josie trusted the inner compass. While the author was going through this whole tricky phase of questioning and rejecting external doctrines, Josie was just this incredibly steady anchor. She never forced religion on them, not even once. She never demanded they conform to certain beliefs just to fit in with the crowd. She inherently trusted the child's longing and their own internal navigation system. She essentially said, "I trust you to find your own way."
And that leads us to our final part, Section 4, The Guardian of the Door, Josie's True Legacy.
The source text goes into these really vivid, mystical experiences the author had growing up. Just imagine this for a second. Waking up in the morning with a joy so pure and so overwhelming that it literally felt like sunlight shining inside your bones. The author had this deep, unshakable knowing that, while they slept, their soul had actually gone back to a place they remembered. They constantly sensed these friends from the other side keeping watch over them. Now, let's be real, a lot of adults would hear a kid say that and instantly brush it off as crazy talk. But Josie? She just listened. She never, ever dismissed those powerful glimpses as just a dream or childhood nonsense. By truly listening, she validated the reality of that inner world, and that allowed the author's spiritual longing to just keep growing deeper.
All of this really culminates in this absolutely beautiful, poetic passage from the text called Zoran's Whisper. Let's read this together, because it carries some serious mythic weight. Traveler, Josie saw the starlight in you before you knew its name. She held the space where your longing could grow. She was the first guardian of your inner senses, the one who kept the door open until you were ready to enter. I mean, it gives you goosebumps, doesn't it? This is for sure the emotional climax of the whole story. Josie wasn't just a nice, supportive grandma. On a literal cosmic level, she was the very first guardian of this person's soul.
When we step back and look at Josie's entire legacy, it boils down to these 3 massive steps. First, she honored the child's innate cosmic memory. She didn't question it, and she didn't try to mold it into something else. Second, she held the door open to the inner world. By making it completely safe to explore the invisible, she taught the author that the divine isn't some distant thing, it's right there inside you. And finally, by doing all of that, she allowed a simple childhood longing to organically transform into a lifelong destiny. She was literally the ultimate mentor, and she did it entirely through her presence, rather than just telling someone what to do. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to take this deeply personal story we've been looking at and turn it outward, back to you. The author had Josie to validate their inner senses and protect their cosmic memory. So I want to leave you with this question to really think about. Who was the first guardian of your inner world? Who was the very first person to look at you and recognize your light before you even had a name for it? Thank you so much for hanging out with me to explore this incredible text today. Until next time, keep exploring and definitely keep trusting that inner compass.